Standing in prayer. Standing. 82. Standing is a pillar and a basic element of obligatory and recommended prayers. Therefore, IT is not permissible for anyone capable of standing to perform an obligatory OR recommended prayer while sitting. Since the pillars are obligatory, they must be observed. 83. If a sick person is genuinely or legally unable to stand, they may pray while sitting. This may be due to either they are actually unable to stand due to an illness or other reason, or they are healthy but fear that standing will cause severe pain or make their condition worse. In either case, they may pray while sitting. If they have the strength, they perform RUKU and SUJUD. For difficulties lead to ease. Necessities are also subject to a certain measure. 84. Sick person cannot perform the obligatory prayers while sitting as long as he has the strength to stand up by leaning on something. Again, if they have the strength to stand for a while, they stand for that time and then finish the prayer while sitting, so that only those who are able to stand up for the IFTITAH TAKBIR should stand up for this TAKBIR, then sit down and perform their prayer. They cannot do it any other way. 85. If a patient is able to stand but is unable to perform RUKU and SUJUD or only SUJUD, he does not have to pray standing. He should pray sitting and perform I gesture, which is the preferable way. However, according to Imam Zufa and 3 other imams, the prayer must be performed standing up with ima. The sign, ime, refers to the gesture made during prayer by bowing the head downward for ruku and prostration. However, the movement made for prostration must be lower than that made for ruku. 86. If someone is unable to recite the Quran while standing, they should pray sitting down. A person who is able to recite a certain amount while standing should recite as much as they can while standing and recite the rest while sitting. 87. If a person's wound will bleed if they pray with bowing and prostration, they should pray standing or sitting with ima. If someone cannot hold their urine while praying standing, they should pray sitting with bowing and prostration. 88. If someone prays alone and has the strength to stand, but does not have the strength to stand when praying in congregation, they should begin the prayer standing, then sit down. If they are able, they stand up again for ruku and perform ruku. However, 89. Even while seated, a person who is unable to perform ruku and sujud does so by bowing their head. For prostration, they bow their head more than for bowing. It is not appropriate for them to provide something like a pillow to prostrate on. However, it is permissible for them to prostrate by placing their head on such a thing. In this case, if he feels the hardness of the prostration place, his prayer is considered to have been performed with ruku and prostration. He does not feel it is considered to have been performed by implication. 90. If someone cannot pray while sitting, they lie on their back and stretch their feet towards the direction of the Qibla. Then they pray by making gestures for bowing and prostration. To be able to gesture with their head, something suitable is placed under their shoulders. If such a patient lies on their right side with their face toward the Qibla and performs ruku and sujud by gesturing, their prayer is still valid. However, if they have the strength, it is more meritorious to lie on their back. 9.1. A patient who can pray while sitting should sit as one would sit for the tashahhud if they have the strength, and thus complete their prayer. If they do not have the strength to do so, they should sit in the manner that is easiest for them. 9.2. If a patient does not have the strength to perform the ima with their head, they should delay their prayer. They should not perform the ima with their heart, eyebrows, or eyes. This ruling is according to Imam Azam. According to Imam Abu Yusuf, in this case, even if he does not make the gesture with his heart, he makes it with his eyes and eyebrows. According to Imam Zufar and Imam Shafi, he also makes the gesture with his heart. According to another narration, if such a sick person's state of incapacity lasts more than 1 day and 1 night, the prayers related to that time are completely waived for him. This ruling applies even if he is of sound mind. 93. If someone's unconsciousness lasts less than a day and a night, They must make up the prayers missed during that time. However, if IT continues for more than that, the prayers are forgiven. This shortness and length is based on the hours according to Imam Azam. According to Imam Muhammad, IT is based on the times of the missed prayers. For this reason, according to Imam Muhammad, if more than 5 prayers have been missed, they are lost. Otherwise, they are not. This view is considered more valid. Conclusion: prayer can never be abandoned or delayed unless there is a valid excuse. Otherwise, the punishment of the exalted Allah is very severe and terrible. We seek refuge in His greatness. 9.4. Obligatory prayers are not performed on animals without a valid excuse. This ruling also applies to the witter prayer, the funeral prayer, the recitation prostration due to a verse requiring prostration recited on the ground, and any other prayer that must be made up. According to a narration from Imam Azam, the sunnah of the morning prayer cannot be performed on an animal unless there is an excuse. 95. A moving car is considered to be an animal in motion. Therefore, unless there is a necessity, obligatory and recommended prayers cannot be performed on a moving car. A stationary car, however, is like a bench or a throne on the ground, and any prayer can be performed on it. 9.6. On a ship that is sailing, all prayers may be performed while seated without any excuse. However, performing them while standing is more virtuous. This is according to Imam Azam. According to the other 2 Imams, unless there is an excuse such as dizziness, obligatory prayers cannot be performed while seated on a moving ship. Because standing is a ruku, IT cannot be abandoned unless there is an excuse. According to Imam Azam, dizziness is prevalent on ships. If IT is prevalent, IT is definitely a ruling. 9.7. A ship anchored at the shore or in the middle of the sea, if IT is not rocking, is considered to be on land. Prayer can be performed standing up inside it, but if IT is rocking and stopping, IT is considered an animal. If possible, one should get out and pray outside. A moving airplane is like a moving ship. Its movement and stopping are not in the passenger's hands. 9.8. The 2 eyes of the mama on an animal, such as a walking camel, are considered to be on the animal's back. However, if a tree is planted under the 2 eyes of the mama on a stationary animal, if a person is sitting on IT, is considered to be on the ground if a tree is planted under IT to support IT. Then the sofa, board, and cushion on the ground are considered to be on the ground. 9.9. A person praying on an animal performs the bowing and prostration by gesture. For the prostration, he bends a little more than for the bowing. It is disliked to place one's head on any object, such as a saddle. While performing prostration, 100 sunnah and mustahab prayers may be performed while sitting, without a valid excuse. However, the merit lies in performing them while standing. There is consensus among the scholars on this. According to Imam Azam, only the sunnah of the morning prayer is an exception to this. It cannot be performed sitting down without a valid excuse. This was mentioned above. Although it is permissible to perform the Tarawih prayer while sitting without a valid excuse, it is disliked. 101. If a person begins a supererogatory prayer standing, it is permissible for them to lean on something or sit down if they become tired. Unless there is such an excuse, leaning on something or sitting down is disliked. 102. If someone begins a supererogatory prayer sitting down, they may stand up and complete it standing. There is consensus on this.